In this video, I'm going to break down the State of the Union speech and how it impacts government contracting. Because oftentimes, what I find is that we are living in a world where there's tons of valuable information that can improve our lives only if we quiet our emotions, regardless of what side you are on, whether it's red, blue, pink, purple, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what focus you have is on the opportunities you can actually take advantage of, partner with agencies to really create impact in communities. Now, if that sounds like something that you're interested in, you're going to want to lean in because that's what we're going to talk about today. So, hopefully this is timely. As of the time of the recording, we had here in the United States a State of the Union address last night, and I take a ton of notes. Anytime Congress or the current administration is speaking on anything, I take notes. They're not just talking just to talk. There's always something tied to funds, money, and the circulation of that. And when we understand that when they say something, it's either in the process of or being developed, now we get to become proactive instead of reactive. You see, the insiders in government contracting know this to be true. These are those that are winning contracts consecutively, those that are building a pipeline of revenue, unlimited revenue exponentially, that they're able to not only hire the best, but season the rest of their team with great expertise, with great knowledge, because they can afford it. They can afford to take a step out of being the glue for their entire company so that they can leverage the business that they're building. And when you start to leverage government contracts and utilize it to increase the value of your business, but really optimize the business that you've either bought or built, now you're in a position of real insider value where what happens at this level is it's just speed, it's momentum and acceleration at a stable state. You're not not concerned about a month worth of uh, you know shutdowns here and there. When you find out that there are essential contracts that are awarded and in production while the shutdown is down, like is happening, it changes your perspective on what actually you're seeing in the media. So we're not going to talk too much about what's happening in the media. We're going to focus on specific what the facts show, what the facts actually mean, and how they impact your business, because we're here to grow and build a business, and that's what we're going to do. So last night's State of the Union, I have got my notes here because this is really fresh. It can pull from your emotions, or it can be the contractor's roadmap of your dreams. And there are a few things that were brought to our attention as a community, as a society, that I want to make mention in this video specifically. So we're going to cover why the State of the Union exists. I mean, do you really know why we have specific addresses or State of the Unions or reports or, hearing from the Oval Office? Like, it's just, why do we even have that in the first place? What is the formality? How does that impact you as a firm or a service business that is established and is acquiring or in the process of acquiring government contracts? I'm going to talk also about the contracting signals that matter for service businesses, and specifically how you can be proactive. So not only you're going to be proactive, but you're going to save so much time and energy focusing on the right things instead of the wrong things. How much faster will things happen for you in your business when you can focus on the right things opposed to a whole bunch of noise that occurs around you? Right now, and probably for the next couple of months, there will be a ton of noise around the State of the Union, as it always is every single administration. Doesn't matter who is in place, and there will be some emotional responses. This is not about emotion. This is about like logical, strategic steps that you can logistically take right now. So we're also going to cover where it goes next in the timeline from speech to solicitation. So where does it go and how long does it take, and to actually become a contract, whether or not it has already become one, whether there actual are funds set aside for that. We're going to talk more about that, why press briefings exist and how to use them as your early warning side. This is one of the key elements of one of my highest offers that I provide, because of understanding strategically how to position your business way ahead of the market even acknowledging that it has existed. There was I want to for example, there was well, the one big beautiful bill act is an example, but one that's more that has come and go and no one has even noticed its existence, that's valued over $1 trillion, is the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. You may have heard me talk about this before. This is something you'll look up. It's called the IIJA, Infrastructure Investments Job Act. And it was specifically, it actually just ended. It's specifically for roads, bridges, infrastructure, on demand, internet access, water, like efficiency, sustainability. I mean, it's a very long list. And it was federal dollars that were set aside in the previous administration by President Biden, and then enacted by states. So across the United States, there were federal, state, and local governments that were participating in this program. Now, what does that have anything to do with you? Everything. When you look for a contract on sam.gov, when you go to MyGovWatch and you're looking for contracts to bid on, that is a reactive situation, because you're responding after the fact that they've made a decision on what they need or want to get that specific problem solved. And so when you're at the end and you haven't done your due diligence, like met with them, connect with research in terms of reading information about why this, opportunity even exists. Like as simple as, for a reference for IIJA, for IJA, it was like, improving our roads and bridges, right? So why is it important to improve our roads and bridges? Well, it actually costs more to solve a problem after it breaks than it is to maintain it. It costs way more to fix something that's broken than to maintain it. And so they were funding more money into this so that it doesn't get worse and it causes a bigger problem than it already had. So these press briefings, these State of the Unions, what they're doing is signaling to the market this is important. Recently Kennedy had mentioned, or his whole, I guess, premise is to focus specifically on health, like the American health, right? And there's different initiatives for, removing food dye and agriculture, and really like investigating agriculture and how food gets delivered to American, citizens and American residents. And why is that so important? How does that impact government contracting in a huge way? That's like cost of shipping, supplies, materials. It's also a lot more communication, so bandwidth, project management that changes how they used to do things. If someone come into your business and told you, well, you couldn't do this to something the way that you've been doing it for the last 50 years, then that would require you to basically restructure the way that you think about your business. So those that are consultants that can help people really solve this bottleneck, and financial analyses to see how can we be cost effective when using real food versus, processed manufactured food, right? So these are all things that, as a strategist, as someone who does this for a living as a strategist, that's, one of the highest dollar values, because when I bring these ideas to people and help them position themselves, now it's off to the races. Now it's just about getting in front of somebody, or the traffic that is flowing because the money is already there. You're not having to find it because it's just revealing itself to you, and you stand in front of that money and it just pours right through you, right? So you get to be part of the solution to these major problems. And a simple one-page operating move you can use right now so that you can really just start to see this. I don't want you to just take this information, consume it, and then forget about it. I want you to take action on what you're hearing right now. So like I've spent, gosh, 20 years in business development and marketing and government contracting, and just really understanding the whole crux of why it's important to increase the asset value, the enterprise value of your business. Because at the end of the day, that's what you get to leverage. If you don't have any leverage in your business, you're basically running a business that's burning you out. You're the leverage. You're the burning out. You're the energy source. And so when you think about government, who's, here in the United States, we're celebrating 250 years of existence, a system that has been in place for 250 years. I would say that they have their systems locked in, right? After probably the last 200, right? So they figured something out, and they're just rewashing, reiterating that over and over again, which is why it's an unlimited pool of opportunity for your business. It's unlimited to access to multiple millions, if not billions of dollars for your company, because that's what they need to survive. That's what they need to, make sure that their structures, their systems in place so that we have civilization. And so that's important. It's just not here. I'm not here to debate politics. I really honestly don't think that that's important. What I do think is important is helping you build stability in your business, building structure in your business, and ultimately building freedom in your business. So you don't have to feel like you're chained to your company. The State of the Union exists because the Constitution requires the President of the United States to give Congress information from time to time and recommended measures. It's by law. It's kind of a procedural activity, a part of the being a president. Like I said, they've been around for 250 years. There's practices that they have utilized to do everything. So before YouTube, there was TV. Before TV, there was radio. So there was always a way to deliver this message out to Congress and to those constituents, those taxpayers, to get them the information they need about how money was being spent, their dollars. So this is really early. This is like signaling the marketplace on what's going to happen in the future. Why this is so valuable? Because you want to be in government contracting, those that are there like the first the first settlers on opportunity are usually those that get positioned to win those contracts predictably, not because they're coursing or bribing or anything like that. No, because they understand, they are educated on the problem so deeply that it's just by product they're going to stand out from everyone else in the marketplace. And when you look on sam.gov and you click on the link and you download the RFP and then you respond to it, Yeah, it's all gonna be about price because that's the only thing that you can leverage, your time, your pockets, your value as a business. But if you get in before it even exists, now you're solving the problem. Now you're helping them understand what the problem even is. Let me give you an example. So, one of the things that I love to do is I love to spend time reading the word. I read the word every morning. I love reading the word, and I love just talking to God in the morning. And, I really got connected to my phone. I use my phone to access an app that I use to read the Bible, to read devotions, to read scripture, to hear music, the whole nine yards. It's very convenient for me. And I thought about getting a new adult study Bible. Like I have some Bibles that I've used for years, but it's just not one that's in this current season with me. And I put it in my Amazon cart, and I kind of like forgot about it. I honestly totally forgot about it until a friend of mine had reminded me of why it was important. And I thought to myself, well, I already have a Bible, right? You already have a competitor. You already have someone that's going to deliver construction services or engineering, civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, or fire protection, or if you're a consultant, if you're a speaker, if you're a professional services like in finance or marketing, like you're thinking they already have someone. Why would they need me? Well, because they've been using an app. They haven't been introduced to using a physical study Bible yet. They're using an app. And so an app is great because you can still take notes, you can still highlight sections in scripture and verses, and it still is an experience. But now I can take it out of something that could be a distraction. A phone can be a distraction. I usually have to put it on do not disturb. I have to like basically put it on airplane mode so that I can stay in locked in. And now with a physical Bible, I get to go anywhere without my phone, which is great because I usually leave my phone home when, I'm going out and I'm in the yard or, in the garage or something like that. I don't really take my phone anywhere unless I'm leaving the house in a car. Um, but it's like, oh, it's more freedom. I'm not tied to all of the things that are in my phone. I get just to experience the thing that I really enjoy to experience. Now, the devotions, all that stuff, well, that's great because inside the study Bible has all of that too. So all I'm doing is changing the way that I receive it. So that's the same thing when it comes to contracting. You might be thinking to yourself, well, why would they need me? Well, the reason why they need you is because you bring a different perspective. You may have delivered the same result, but not in the same way. And that's important when it comes to government contracting. So when you're hearing these signals, you want to really think, how would I do it? Or how have I done this in the past? Even if it was at a small scale, that matters so much because you already have expertise. You can bring that to an agency. Imagine, imagine being a school district, and for the first time you're hearing things, you're like, I have no idea how to do any of this, right? Let me give you a real example, like the Department of Education is transitioning from a federal agency down to a state agency level, and that hasn't existed since like the 70s, like the mid or late 70s, early 80s. So all of this is happening in the last couple decades where federal has been making decisions for state and local schools, colleges, universities, and, public entities for education. And so what does that mean? That means that they're going to have to read, like, it's kind of delegating a responsibility to someone who used to have that role, but now you're introducing a completely different world, a completely different era, in AI world, where education is not the same post pandemic. I mean, there's just so many problems with where the state has to face. And what if you came in, you're like, I can totally help you. Actually, I did a training. I did a presentation. I have a book. I have like I can help with renovating or improving, schools so that their education for virtual and in person. And so now, no matter what you offer as a service in your business, you get to be a part of the solution. And instead of waiting for the contract, have conversation ahead of time. Like, have you guys ever thought of, instead of a projector, maybe, maybe it's a TV screen that's a part of the wall, or maybe it's, whatever it is that you do, but you get to, because you've done it before. If you have experience and expertise that you've done it before, you get to bring it to them and say, this is another way to get the outcome that you want. So it gives you time to be creative, to build partnership, to build solutions, to get that experience before the solicitation even exists. Hopefully that's landing for you. Give me a yes in the chat if it does. Now, there's a different perspective, because some of you may be thinking, well, wait a minute. I didn't like when he said this, and I don't like when he said that. Well, that's a consumer perspective, and you're entitled to have one. We're only going to focus on having a contractor's perspective, where we ask, what will be funded? What is the specific funding program, the vehicle that has the money in it, that we can access and partner with those agencies? What agencies will be pressured to execute? This is something that's very important to understand. You think that, oh, well, let me find the agency office phone number, call them up anytime, or email them a gazillion times. No, they're required by law to spend money buying what you sell. So, do they have time to chit chat? Probably not. They're required by law to spend over $1 trillion every fiscal year. And that's a trillion just at the federal level. And then you have to add the SLED, or state, local, and education, and you put them together. So that's airports, that's correctional facilities, that's civic and utilities, that's EMS and fire. There's, so many government agencies that are reacting to what is being said at Congress. What buying categories will expand? The more that you hear this, the more that you'll know. What gets measured publicly, so good. This is going to be something that's going to be brushed over in the media, because it always has. I've seen it for over a decade. It's always has this, it's like brushed over. It's like, oh, well, this is the stat. And then it moves on to something, triggering or whatnot. But just take the information, gather that information, and then move on, because that's going to move the needle. This is how you can dissect and separate between noise and signal. Signal is going to move you forward, noise is just going to keep you stuck. Okay. What gets rushed because of deadlines? A lot, not just you, but things on their end, because they're still trying to figure out, well, you're telling me that I can put a TV screen, like a 200 square foot TV screen inside the wall. Well, how do we do that? And what do we have to worry about in terms of waterproofing and insulation and electricity and the safety hazards, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you can educate them on this is an alternative, it'll give you the same outcome. It might save you money. It might be more cost effective. It might be safer. It might be easier to use. It might, be easier to maintain, like long lasting, etc. You can bring those benefits, but really mitigating the risk, lowering the risk for them. There's more of a chance for them to listen. Now, what happens if they listen? If they listen, they're like, yes, tell me more. Well, now you have an opportunity to educate them on a better way. Wouldn't you want to be a business that teaches them a better way? I mean, you want impact. You want to create a community of impact. How would you not be able to do that? How would you be able to do that without the access to people who make decisions? So this is a way to do that. It's really kind of exciting. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that we heard last night, or I heard last night, and I took notes, tons of notes. I'm only going to cover just a few signals that was addressed last night. But the first one and the biggest one is the defense spend and readiness language. So we talked a lot about military strength. We gave a couple of accolades out while we're there: bigger budgets, recruitment, readiness, and also weapon systems. So defense dollars usually go to, and the categories are within facility support and base operations, construction and repair, logistics and transportation, IT and cybersecurity. That's going to be a big one, especially he's not just talking, President Trump is not just talking about weaponry in terms of like arms. He's also talking about cybersecurity and IT. How do we protect the United States? So you come into that and you call President Trump? No, you go to your local SLED agency or federal agency. You build relationships, connect with them, and even looking at their current budget for solving that problem, right? Because federal already, ruled out their budget for 2026 last October, and probably working on 2035 by now, because again, they're a system that was established over 250 years ago. Of course they're ahead. Isn't it going to be amazing to be as steady as the US government in your business, where you can plan ahead years ahead of time? That is true for my clients, where they can plan ahead what the growth of their business is going to be based off what they decide to go after, what they decide to chase. Now, my clients, they're diversified. They're not leaning 100% into public sector. They're also doing private sector. They're leveraging private sector to stay in authority in the public sector and vice versa. So it's like you experience the volatility of up and down, like referrals and all that stuff from the private sector. But the government is great because now you can see for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ahead of what they're going to buy. And when you know what they're going to buy, now you can plan ahead. Okay, I'm going to need this person in this specific job role. I'm going to need this team. I'm going to need them to know how to do this. I need to go and get some more experience, or I need to build partnerships so that I'm ready for the opportunity when it becomes a contract, because it's not a contract yet. That's what's powerful. Other things in defense include training, medical support, staffing, project management, program management, and professional services, including staffing and IT, logistics, janitorial, security training, etc. Just the majority of the top. These are the top services. You can chat GPT this if you want. These are the top services. So if you're considering acquiring a business, you want to lean towards, in my experience, if you're thinking like, I want to leverage government contracts and really go fast, I want to win a contract, potentially the value of my total annual revenue last year, this year, right? If you want to kind of do some major quantum leaps, the top service industries, the top disciplines, the top categories, use that terminology when you're doing your searches. Those are yummy because, regardless if they have public sector past performance, a portfolio or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. As long as they have happy clients, they've delivered the work, you have a team, and you can show past performance for however long the business exists. That's really powerful, and it makes you stand out from a crowded, loud marketplace of startups who don't have any experience. Like, no shame, because we were all there. We were all at the startup state. But in my opinion, government contracting is not really for startups. It's for businesses that have already been established and they're ready to just like basically quantumly compound, multiply their revenue, and just really just have that freedom, that stability at that higher level of enterprise value. All right, so the second signal, border and homeland security pressure. Again, it goes back to security. So there was an emphasis around security services and also programs. So program support, staffing, technical enablement, transport, and logistics. So again and again, you're hearing the same types of services that are going to be needed. Melinda, who would be buying all this? DoD? Well, Department of Defense is the largest buyer within the United States government. However, however, there are also EMS and fire. There are police departments. There's ICE. Like there's so many other agencies that need these services because this is security. It's kind of like, I was talking with my client who runs an accounting business. It's kind of like thinking, what organization goes without making money or circulating money? Well, every organization, even the lemonade stand in your neighborhood, there is a circulation of money. So if you're in accounting and that's what you do as a profession with 20 years of experience, why would you not? Why would you not start like government contracting is just this an easy pull because there's 99,000 plus agencies in the United States and you don't need 99,000. You just need probably like 3 or 5 and you're done. You're good. You're solid. That rides you for a long time. And then you get to build relationships with other agencies as you go and stabilize your business. Okay. Signal number 3 is energy, posture, and domestic production. We talked about energy a lot. It was interweaved quite a bit. I don't know if you guys noticed it. Maybe if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. The conversation it was inundated with energy discussion that like I wrote the word energy at least a dozen times. And see the thing, the word energy itself wasn't used. What was used was infrastructure. What was used was engineering, construction, data centers, AI, robotics, safety and compliance. Compliance was a big one that was used. Industrial based support, supply chain. Supply chain was a huge one that was used quite a bit. And so these are all triggering energy. Energy in the source of energy, like light, power, energy. Now, what does that mean? That means that this is not only a problem, but it's also something that they're focusing their effort and, for lack of a better word, energy on so that they can solve it before it needs to be solved. Like right now, we're kind of in this crux where advancing in AI and technology, robotics and biomechanics and all these like new technology ideas and structures and things like that. And then there's the window of time that they're thinking, okay, so based off the speed of, this is happening, X, Y, and Z, then we can project this. Now you're looking at an organization that's existed for over 250 years, that's gone through era after era after era after era of change in an entire society, structural society, and looking at this and saying, okay, so what did we do? What was the pattern? What's the principles of what we did before so that we can prepare for the future? And that's what they're doing right now. They're already ahead by a decade, 2 decades, 3, like because they are so systematized. And what that means for you is if they're focused on energy right now, if they're making this an immediate need, then I need to understand the definition of immediate. My predictions are that the immediate is going to be the next 24 to 36 months. So the next 3 years is my projection, just based off the speed of response and the dollars that are being allocated for different agencies and specific programs that are being issued based off Congress and what's listed on the FAR, and just like a lot of signals indicating there is a lot of money going towards energy. And that's a good thing because it's going to require a lot of jobs. Okay. He did emphasize jobs last night. And he said that there are new construction, manufacturing, new jobs that are being brought back on shore and being repurposed. Basically, he shared a story about how, like talking to different small businesses and just hearing what they say about this is like the season, this is the time. That is a signal. That's a signal. Okay. Okay. Now let's get to the juicy part. Okay. The fun part is the Olympics and the FIFA budgets. People ask me all the time. I made a video. I'll make sure to link it down below about the FIFA and Olympics and other bigger programs that are billions of dollars funded into it. And they're big and public. And then we never even think, most people never think how many government dollars actually go into it. So I wanted to break that down. There we're just seeing like within the Cortina 2026 Winter Games, the Olympic Winter Games, the estimated operating budget was $1.7 billion in euro. And the overall budget of the 2028 games, the Los Angeles 2028 games, is expected to be, excuse me, in and around 7.15 billion. So 7 billion, 7.5 billion. I would expect they're going to go a little bit higher on the security side, which was also emphasized as well for the Olympics. Now, $7 billion, Melinda, where is that going? Where is that going? Now, here's the really fun thing. It's going to go to security. It's going to go to staffing. So security, what is security? These are cones. These are actual security people. There's systems. There's cameras. There's training programs that they're going to need everybody to go through. That's either volunteering or being an employee of the actual facility itself. I mean, there's going to be quite a bit, if not already started, training, security, staffing. Okay, so actually, I was on a podcast and the host was mentioning that she had already signed up to be a volunteer of the Olympics. She was like, I don't know why I didn't even think about the contracts themselves. And I said, I know, go get them. But so, staffing both employee and volunteers, making sure that they're doing background checks, there's a lot of paperwork. Now, backgrounds, what do they go through? They go through a system. Well, that's a third party system typically. So if that's what you do, if that's what your business does, why would you not? Why would you not bid? Temporary infrastructure like tents and parking and signage and wayfinding. I mean, there's so much in that. Transportation, so shuttles and buses and new routes and systems and things like that that they may need to take for the local area, the vicinity. IT and communications on and around. So radio, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, like all of that. And then also adding on security on top of that. And then dashboards are going to want to know who's coming in, who's coming out. Access, everybody have access to their Wi-Fi. That's a visitor, that's a guest, that's an employee, that's a volunteer. I mean, these are all things like when you look at watching the sports, like when you watch a football game and you see the speaker on and everything, that is a part of communication. That has to be a part of the entire system. It's not like he comes with his own thing. He's given one and it's connected to a bigger system. Facility operations. So the cleaning, the maintenance, making sure to test the equipment and all of the facilities, thinking about if there's concessions. So you make sure that everything has been tested, has been cleaned, has been maintained, looking at all of the equipment, making sure that it works, right? It's kind of like inviting someone to your house and you want to make sure that they have a great experience. So you're going to think about every little nook and cranny. You're going to have a big Christmas party. We used to have these huge Christmas parties at our house. And so it was like, we planned for at least 2 weeks ahead, just making sure, do we have this? Do we have that? Is this fixed? Is this, let's just clean the, clean this area and do that. And, just making sure that that experience was an enjoyable one when they arrived. All right. Facility operations, medical support. So this is usually a third party. that provides medical support. So, medical support in terms of doctors, nurses, and medical equipment, EMS and fire safety. Also, wayfinding, like actual to get to the specific medical supports area, training services, vendor services. So, there's so much. There's so much. And that's just one event. It's one event. Now, the other thing that's not allocated in their budget is the impact to the city. It's to the city, Los Angeles. It's to the airport. It's to hospitality, so like hotels and Airbnbs. And I just saw the other day there was an ad for Airbnb about the Olympics and FIFA, and and I'm just like, this is so brilliant, like their impact, right? So overall, if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm in this area, or I know somebody that I can partner with, I work remotely, or whatever it might be, and you're thinking to yourself, am I in the vicinity of a FIFA Cup location or Olympics in the LA area? And it makes sense for me to work remotely or in person, like actual piece on the ground, then why would you not? This is a huge opportunity. And even if it's that you're a subcontractor to a prime, doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to have in your portfolio that you worked on the Olympics. Like crazy forever. Forever. I worked for a company that had that on their books, and it was a powerful statement. It's definitely opened doors. Okay. So, what do we do with all this information now? You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity. What do I do? What do I do? The first thing is just to get clear on what you're going to sell. It's one of the hardest decisions to make. There is so much opportunity. It's kind of like Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory. It's like these kids are going crazy, just eating all the candy. But we want to be really have so much self control to stay focused and in our lane of what experience and knowledge that we bring to the table. Otherwise, it's just a whole bunch of noise. Otherwise, you're not going to move because it's like it's adding friction back into a system that you've cleared it up. You're like, why would you add more junk into something that we've just cleaned? Like we just polished this pipeline. Why would you add more? Now, the second thing that you do once you've decided, you've made a decision, okay, this is what service I am providing, regardless of where it is, what I'm doing, who I'm selling it to, and how many opportunities there are. This is what I am selling. The second thing is actually reaching out to who buys what you sell, just as this simple. Now, if you are within acquisitions, or you're like thinking about building a portfolio, the next question that I would say is who buy what you sell, but do this as simple as possible. Like just go into, chat GPT and just do a quick research and say, this is a service I offer. How much in the government market, in the public sector, how much is set aside for what I do? Like, how many dollars are put into construction? How many dollars are put into engineering? How many dollars are put into infrastructure, staffing, transportation, IT, communications, facilities? Now, you're going to get a number, and more oftentimes it's just a reflection of federal spending. But what I have found, and it's just kind of like a way that we can get a guesstimate on what the state local is buying as well, is to take that number and multiply that by two. Usually it's twice as much as what the federal is going to buy, just because there's more SLED agencies than there are federal agencies. So if it comes back and says it's $10 billion, well, it's $20 billion. Estimate 10 to 20 billion. So that gives you an idea. Now, the second thing that I would do, if you're in the position, maybe you submitted an LOI and you're like waiting and in negotiations and stuff like that, and you're like, this is going to be a really smart decision to acquire this business to leverage government contracts to grow my portfolio. The next thing that we do in that same chat, in the same prompt, you can go ahead and add, tell me who are the competitors of this company. Just put the website address. So if you're going to buy abc.com, whatever that company, construction company is, put that address in there. Just say who would be a competitor of this company. Change it to thinking if you're using ChatGPT, and then that way it'll pull up like, oh yeah, it's this company, and now you can get an idea of like, oh okay, I know who my competitors are. Okay, what's the average contract value? That's another question you can ask Chat, and then it'll give you the contract value. And this is so helpful because now, from a financial standpoint, now you've got leverage at the table. Now you know what you're running into. And here's the third thing. Here's the third thing that I would recommend you put into Chat is give me an example of an RFP. So request for proposal, an RFP. Give me an example of an RFP and include the link to the actual document. And it really doesn't matter where they're pulling it. I mean, ideally, you want it to be in the same vicinity of the HQ, the business that you're buying. But if not, that's okay. It's fine. If it's like a remote business, it's okay, or international. But the goal is to get an RFP. Why? Because you can look at that RFP and it's going to include this is what you need in order to win this contract. Well, if you know you need 5 employees, 5 people to do X, Y, and Z, you need 5 years of experience to do this, this, and this, and then you need to provide like a work plan or a project approach to deliver the results. Now you have 3 pieces of information you need to verify. And once you verify, it's like, oh, now I have qualified this company that I'm considering buying for opportunities that are this size. Boom. Now, if you're overqualified, even better, right? So, this is how you can go into the conversation ahead of time and be prepared to really negotiate, really to have that conversation with the bank, the financial institution that's backing you and say, these are all opportunities that are available to me. These are dollars that are available. Really see that this is going to move forward. It's going to support your business plan. It's going to give you so much leverage. So awesome. It's so exciting. So that's what I would recommend you do. It's not to sit still, it's to actually move. Now, those opportunities that are out there, totally stay in the breast, can build relationships with those agencies that are responsible for those dollars. Even though you might not have your name on the business yet, build relationships. They get to know you. I mean, it's just a conversation. It's meeting them at an event. It's going to a conference. It's just being in the environment. Build relationships. Like be future pacing. Start thinking about what the future is going to look like and just step into it now. And so when the deal, your signature is dry, boom, you're like halfway through, and now you've already built so much momentum that the deal just closed. Like it's just contracts just. Now, I can't guarantee, and no one should guarantee contracts, but you can start to see that you can create predictability because you're way ahead of everyone else looking at solicitations. And that's the buying power. That's the power that you have as a contractor, as a business owner, as someone who understands deals. This is deal making in the public sector. This is why press briefings are so powerful. We saw the State of the Union yesterday, but the other part of that is these press briefings. These press briefings are so powerful. And this is going to teach you how to think and hear like a contractor, not a consumer. You're going to hear the emotional stuff. You're just kind of boop. You're going to hear the logical stuff, the logistics, the strategy, the moving needle. And you're going to hold on tight to that and just ride that into the opportunity place you need to be and position yourself to win contracts. So, last thing that I want to share with you is that there is an opportunity to go even deeper. If you're thinking to yourself, man, this sounds amazing. I really want to take action right now. I heard so many things, or I want to go back and listen to it and really just kind of just lean into like, what can I do right now? I'm going to invite you to, and if you are a serious, established subject matter expert, you're either acquiring a business or you run a successful business with at least 10 years of experience, about 8 to 10 years of experience in that business, not necessarily how long you've held that business, but just 8 to 10 years of experience in that business, go ahead and click the link down below and apply to work with me. This is an opportunity for you to just start taking action on the ideas that you've been like, it's just been sitting in the back of your head for a long time, and finally getting the support you need to move the needle. This is not about adding more work to your plate. This is about taking work off of your plate. I mean, imagine how free you're going to feel when systems are in place by seasoned experts that are teaching and training your existing team on how to level up. Now you're not going to have to do that. Someone else can come in and do that, has way more experience and is just like geeked out about that thing, so you can focus on being a CEO, so that you can focus on just ownership and really asset and legacy and building something that's going to last beyond your lifetime. So go ahead and click the link down below if that sounds like you. You can apply to work with me. And if you are approved, then we can move forward on an opportunity that's going to be the right fit for where you are in your business. Thanks for watching.